Are you one of the 75% of contractors whose financial statements are inaccurate? Find out. Click on the link in the show notes and you'll get a free P&L and balance sheet check.
This is Contractor Sense with Ruth King.
Welcome to Contractor Sense. Here you discover ideas, tactics, news, and information that matters to your contracting business and you. I'm your host, Ruth King. This episode is sponsored by Financially Fit Business. Get the business tool that helps you grow profitably, build wealth, and significantly impact your life and the life of your employees. Go to www.financiallyfit.business and get started today. Thank you for joining us. Here is how we will help your business and you. How do you define success? This is a deep and often ignored question. And today I get to turn the tables. I was Ed Zarecki's guest on his podcast, Elevate Your Business. Ed asked really thought-provoking questions, and I invited him to answer these questions himself. His answers as well as what he's heard from many entrepreneurs. Ed, welcome to Contractor Sense.
Oh, thank you so much, Ruth. It's my pleasure to be here.
I've been looking forward to this because you're one of the few people that when I become a guest, actually asks really, really, really deep and thought-provoking questions. Usually it's financial side of business or something along those lines, and I really enjoyed it. And, you know, the question really is we don't think about the answers as business owners about the answers to these questions as business owners. We've got our heads stuck in the sand so much that we don't do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that people get so focused into their craft. As artisans, they're wonderful, but it can become so consuming that it can dominate people's lives. And that really, from all of my guests and my own sentiments, it's not the reason that we started down this journey per se.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to turn the tables on you. You heard my answers to what success is, and let's hear yours. What's your definition of success, and how has your definition changed over time?
Well, today it's about two primary things. Well, I'd say three primary things. One, it's about spending time with whom and how I would like to spend time. My wife of 39 plus years, or actually 39 years this summer, 41 years in October that we've been together. And, we've had an interesting journey, a lot of challenges, just like so many people out there experience. And so as I've evolved my definition of success, it's really about caring about them. It's about caring about my friends, my colleagues, and I love growing my friend base because that just means more people I get to care about, I get to try to help. And to me, that's, one of those key components. The other part about success on the business side, it's the passion to do what you're doing day in and day out. And so it doesn't feel as much like work. When I started my real estate businesses back in 2005, I can tell you that there were many weeks that we've spent over 100 hours a week, everything from getting the funding, from selecting and evaluating different properties to, contracting out the work to doing the work, especially when we were running multiple property renovations at the same time. And it never felt like work. I loved it. And even though we went through the Great Recession, I had such a love for what we were doing. I loved the products that we were able to turn. And so that passion really, when I started this business a little over a year ago, it's what I was looking for. How do I leverage my passion to really help businesses grow, to help people succeed? How do I do that? So passion, spending the time with the people that I love most, building new relationships and growing that network of really friends and deep friends.
Yeah. Do you find that 20-year-olds know what their passion is? Or does it take time to develop?
I honestly believe, and even I've had some incredible guests that are in that 20-year-old range, and they are truly phenomenal. I do believe that generally they're exceptions. And so I do believe that their focus changes over time. And in our use, we're most focused on hierarchy, power, money, and relationships really come second. And I know for me in my journey, I grew up in a challenged environment, and overcoming those challenges, I thought it was really going to be money, power, climbing the corporate ladder was going to be my avenue for success. The problem was that it was milestone based. And every time I'd achieve the next milestone, I'd find I wasn't any happier at that
Happier.
point.
Yeah.
I
It's like, what's next?
exactly.
Well, the interesting thing is, as I talked about when I was on your show, Elevate Your Business, I said, when I was a kid, mine was money. It's not money anymore. It's spending time just like yours is now, with people I care about, people I love, people that, I want to spend time with. And to me right now, and I'm sure I'm just listening to you and I both feel the same way, is that time is more important than money right now. But I don't think when you're 18, 19, 20, it's exactly like that. At least I wasn't.
No, I honestly had a target of retiring by 42, and it was based on meeting a financial goal. And I did not generally meet that. I did almost meet that goal, but, life happens and that just never manifested itself. And by the time I hit that, I was like, well, maybe it's time for a little bit of a rethink relative to what success really means. And I can tell you this, one of the things that really started to reshape my thinking is, my father, and I knew, he evolved so much over his life. And when he passed away a few years ago, the amount of love, the amount of caring, and the commentary relative to give you the shirt off of his back. And I was the executor, and I was the intermediary between the doctors, the hospital, and my mom and my father, just because I understood more about what the doctors were saying, et cetera. And it really touched me. And I was so glad I spent the journey the way I did, because when I came back and started my real estate businesses, it was a family owned business. My father actually worked for me as one of my project directors. And I had my brother leading a crew, and I brought in other family members. My wife actually ran some of the financial management aspects of the business and other things. And I would not trade that. And I can tell you that going through the Great Recession with real estate was not fun.
Yeah.
But I would trade that time with my family for anything. And I think that's where it really did start to shift my thinking into what's really important about life and your journey through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we take a break, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, how do they do it?
Easily, my mobile number, 712-309-6296. Text me, call me, although I am largely in meetings most of the day. I will call you back as soon as I can, or text me and we can set up a time to talk. My email, ezarecki@focalpointcoaching.com. Email me that way. And of course, LinkedIn, if you're on LinkedIn, I'm out there, easily findable, and you can send me an email, connect with me, etc.
Very good. Thanks for listening to Contractor Sense. We'll be right back. Imagine you had total freedom. You didn't have to worry about money. You didn't have to be a slave to your business. The words, I can't, are eliminated from your vocabulary. What if you could do what you want to do, whenever you want to do it? A financially fit business could give you that freedom. How? By knowing what your financial statements are telling you and taking action based on what they say. You can do this in less than 10 minutes a month at an investment of less than taking your family out to dinner once a month. And if your financial statements are a mess, you can get help. Go to www.financiallyfit.business or click on the QR code below to get started today. We're back. I'm talking with Ed Zarecki, who is an incredible entrepreneur himself, has a podcast called Elevate Your Business. And the first part of this program, we talked about success and his definition of success. During the conversation, you talked about overcoming challenges, and you brought up the recession, the Great Recession of 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. How'd you get through it?
Well, a lot of what we teach, what I coach today, is about being able to adapt. It's about mindset, attitude, etc. But there are also components, the financial levers. And Brian Tracy has a framework out there called Way to Wealth.
Hmm.
And what I didn't realize until, learning about his framework is that I was leveraging the financial levers to shift. So instead of developing properties and selling properties, which that market was largely shut down, and because we were a smaller player out there at the time, um, we couldn't get funding through FHA or anything, even though our projects fully qualified for those type of funding options. There was just nobody lending, nobody giving us any breaks. So what we had to do is pivot, and we pivoted into renting those units out and surviving the next, quite a few years,
Yeah.
getting through the period until those prices rebounded from as much as for us, I think our valuations dropped by 40%. And so we had to recover from those valuations, finish the renovations that we had started, and then ultimately sold all the properties at a profit. We survived by doing the pivot, looking at the numbers, figuring out ways that we could get through a period of time. And it was not just period, it was just not challenging from a real estate valuation perspective, but the overall economy had compressed to a point where rents were, little or nothing. And so it wasn't like we could shift over into the world of renting out our properties and make good profit. We had to be very financially smart in where, when, and how we spent the dollars on just keeping the units maintained through that period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. The key I think you mentioned was pivoting. You were aware enough and were willing to take the chance to pivot. Where some people just put their head in the sand and went, "Oh, woe is me," and let me know when I can come out, which doesn't do anybody any good.
No, it doesn't. And there were a whole lot of contractors, investors, and developers that wound up filing bankruptcy through that period of time because they didn't have any choice. They didn't have the funds to sustain themselves through the challenging periods of that Great Recession.
Yeah, it was not fun time period. All right, so you went through the Great Recession, and then was there a lot of innovation and technology back then, or probably not? I think there's more today than there was back then.
I always try to make sure that we were well equipped with the tools to get the job done. And so from a IT technology, from an information technology perspective, no, there really wasn't a lot out there. Today, doing valuations on properties and so much more is integrated, automated, and much more seamlessly able to be connected. So if I'm doing a business case over here, those valuations, those numbers go right into the system, et cetera. Back then, that was all spreadsheets and really basic tools. But when it came to the work that we did, there's always been innovation on the physical construction tools and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So as battery technology came out, for example, yes, I absolutely went out and would invest in those because it made the work easier, better, faster for my crews.
Yeah, absolutely. So if one of our listeners is interested in having you coach them, what's your normal coaching look like?
Well, it really depends. It's really tied to their journey. And I always ask the question relative to where are they going with their business? What are their goals? And those goals are really balanced between two pieces. One, their business goals, and people have an easier time talking about that. But what they don't always have an easy time talking about is their personal goals, because we don't get into business ownership, entrepreneurship without having a desire for something different than what the corporate world or working for somebody else has out there. So it's really first helping them, align their business, understand and define their personal goals, and then define where they're at, what's your current state on both that business and that personal front, and what obstacles have they experienced through their journey so far, or do they foresee experiencing and trying to go from where they're at to attain their goals. And from there, it's really taking core systems, best in practice solutions and systems, and road mapping a path forward. It often does start with refining their vision, mission, values, and strategic goals, but not always. And the legs to that, where they need the most help, whether it's marketing planning, financial management, team development, leadership development, those legs are defined as part of what their needs are in moving from where they're at to where they want to get to.
Cool. Absolutely. Good. All right. So I'm going to ask you the same question you asked me at the end. What is what's your biggest takeaway? What have you learned the most from the people who have been your guests? And what do you think is the single most thing that an entrepreneur or business owner should do?
Well, I am going to answer that from a podcast perspective in the next couple of months as I start to culminate all the information that's provided across my guests to answer from their perspective what those takeaways are. And so what I'll answer is one that has resonated with me um, throughout this most recent journey, and that is recognize that business is hard. It is a balance, and to get where you want to go, expect it to take time, expect it to cost in time and energy and money, depending on how you approach it. Those costs can vary from factor to factor, but expect it to take twice as long, expect it to have twice as many challenges, and expect it to cost more than you originally had planned. Because most people that haven't been through the journey just don't understand all those nuances on running a business that are so different than working within a W-2 framework.
Yeah, absolutely. I would add one thing to that. Would you like to know what it is?
Absolutely.
I would add seek advice from people who have been there rather than your mother, your father, your sister, your uncle, or your friend who's never owned a business.
I agree with that. Matter of fact, right before this call, I reached out to a dear friend of mine who has two very successful businesses to ask him advice. And at one time, I've been his mentor for years, but I'm asking for his insights and input because he's got experience in these areas that I think can help me quite a bit in my business. So I
Yeah.
agree with you 100%.
Yeah, cool. Give us your cell phone again if you don't mind.
712-309-6296.
Ed, thank you so much for joining us.
Ruth, it has been my pleasure and my honor. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank all of you for joining us, too. Choose one thing that you discovered and implement it in your business. These ideas, tactics, and strategies help you make more money, have more free time, and give back. If you like today's program, spread the word. Please review this podcast on any device you're listening to it on. Help a fellow contractor make more money, too. For comments or questions, call me at 770-729-0258 or email Ruth King at hvacchannel.tv. Thanks for listening. Have a great and profitable day.